Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Great. We are. So tonight we're continuing, as Beth said, our sermon series looking at immeasurably more. And over the past few weeks, we've looked at what it means to encounter the immeasurably more of God as our inheritance, all the good things that God has for us. And we've looked at what it means of being immeasurably more as family. That's going to be difficult to say. And then last week, Jim spoke about the immeasurably more on offer as we encounter the love of God. And tonight, we're going to be continuing that theme of immeasurably more that comes as a result of us being together. Now, I wonder if you can think about the first group or club that you joined. Maybe for you, it was beavers or rainbows. I remember in primary school, I joined, it was the equivalent of the Christian Union, and it was called Fish Club. It was really cool. But the first proper group I joined was when I was about 5 years old, and I started tap dancing. And the only reason I started tap dancing is because I watched Riverdance, and I thought they looked so cool, all dancing together. I want to participate in that. So I didn't do Irish dancing, I did tap dancing. That makes sense, doesn't it? But what I loved particularly about tap dancing is the fact that you can do your individual steps. But the greatest joy came when we used to do routines together. And the wonderful thing about tap dancing is when everybody is keeping the beat, everybody is keeping the rhythm, it looks pretty good. It looks good when people come together to achieve the same goal. And the idea of working together in unity is what Paul speaks about from our passage from Ephesians. We are each important, of course we are. But when we connect, when we work together, God can do immeasurably more than we could ever imagine. And so Paul encourages us by saying, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. And so Paul begins his letter with urgency. He's writing from prison, not because of hate or violence, because of his deep, deep love for the church. Paul is saying you've been called by God. That means God chose you on purpose. He made you and he loves you. And he has something important, magnificent for you to do. And that important thing is not meant to be done alone. Just like a cog in a bike wheel is made to be connected. We are part of God's family. And so we are called to come together, to work together as that family of God. But let's be honest. I think let's be real. Being family, being together can sometimes be tough. It can be difficult. Maybe your sibling, your brother or your sister really gets on your nerves. Maybe you've been treated harshly by somebody, or maybe there's a group in particular that you want to leave because people don't always get on, people don't always see eye to eye. But Paul tells us, he says, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. That's not just tolerating people. It's not just putting up with people. It's being with people in their mess, in their pain, in their quirks, the things that make them them. It's a kind of relational holiness. It's not about being perfect individually, but it's about being present together in humility. And Paul continues in verse 3, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. And this isn't the kind of unity where everybody looks the same or when everybody agrees. It's the kind of unity that comes from a shared belonging, knowing that we are one body with one Spirit, serving one Lord. And you've heard us say before here that unity, it isn't uniformity. It's connecting around the presence of God. And that's when the church, I think, begins to display the power of immeasurably more that is written about in Ephesians. It's a way of saying that we're going to keep the family strong through our unity, with God's love holding us together. And unity, of course, we know that it isn't automatic. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens, as Paul says, through humility, through patience, through gentleness, and through love. We don't have to create unity. It's already there. It's been given to us by the Spirit. Our task is to maintain it, even to protect it, and to live it out. In a world, and if we're honest, in a church torn apart by division, the church is called to be a living testimony that God's love joins people together across every barrier. And we need each other. Without you, we're incomplete. Our sense of togetherness is incomplete. And so we read in our passage from Ephesians that God, he gives us all spiritual gifts. Maybe your gift is inviting people to church. I wonder, have you ever thought you could be an evangelist? Maybe you long to set up an alpha group in your place of work or at university. Have you ever thought you could be an apostle? Maybe you are somebody who is compassionate, somebody who particularly sees somebody who is struggling when others might ignore or choose not to notice. Maybe you could be a pastor. Maybe God speaks to you through visions, through Bible verses, or places particular prayers on your heart. Maybe you're a prophet. Maybe you love to communicate the love of Jesus in a way that is accessible, but in a way that ignites faith for people. Maybe you're a teacher. But the wonderful thing about these spiritual gifts is they're not just for you, but they're to help the whole family grow. Me and you together grow. That's the key. If we want to see God do immeasurably more, we must learn to be with each other. Not fixing, not performing, not solving, but simply be present. And so the traits, the qualities that Paul lists in verses 2 to 3 are not tasks to be completed. They are attitudes to take on in relationship, in that humility, that gentleness, that patience, that bearing, that peacemaking. And I think these qualities, these virtues, they can't be lived out on our own. We can't do it by ourselves. We need other people. They need community. They need presence. I don't know if you've ever gone to ride a bike. I do it very rarely. But maybe you've gone to ride a bike and all of a sudden you've noticed, classic, your chain has come off. And the pedals are just kind of going nowhere. The brakes are kind of still working, thankfully. The gears are not even doing anything. But I'm going to invite Beth now. Thank you so much, Beth, to come and fix the chain. She's got gloves as well. It's great. It's good. Raymond left his gloves. It was fantastic, yes. But we know that one cog together on that bike, it won't move the bike by itself. But, thank you, when one cog turns another, things come together and things work, gears shift, and the whole bike, I'm sure, will pedal around the church. Maybe you can have a go later on. But like I said, when all the cogs work together, the bike is set in its proper purpose, is in full motion. That's the picture that Paul gives us. The church isn't a place where we go, it's a people on the move. We don't just sit still, we don't just think somebody else can serve today, somebody else can do that particular job. We're all going somewhere with God, but only if we go together. And you might be wondering, well, how do we grow together? Well, we grow by being together, by being with one another, from learning from each other, from helping each other out, from seeing people that are struggling, through offering to pray with one another. Now, you may think to yourself, well, that's a nice sentiment, Victoria, but nobody's helped me out. Nobody's giving me help along the way. I am very much self-sufficient. I am who I am today because I stood on my own 2 feet. I am self-reliant, and I don't need any other people in my life. Why on earth are you telling me that I need other people? Well, if you look down to verse 11, it says this. The gifts he gave were for some to be apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers. And I think here is the answer. so that the whole body of Christ, that's me and that's you, until we reach unity in the faith, in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, we attain to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. And Paul keeps going. He tells us we need each other because our unity to one another, this sense of coming together to share in the joys and in the sorrows, it produces our maturity individually. But we get better when we're not alone. As we're invited in and participate in God's family, we come as we are, yes, but we don't stay there. You don't stay as you were when you come in, no, because we walk together and we change. We grow up. We look mature, maybe with the help of some moisturizer as well, but actually we become like Christ. And I think our development together, our growing together of being a church on the move, depends on our differences. You look more like Jesus, not by looking like each other. We need to be different. God knows that. And Paul makes this, I think, really clear as he writes this letter to the church in Ephesus. Again, he is writing to two people groups that are mortal enemies. He's writing to an audience of Jews and Gentiles. These are people that don't get along. These are people that have pretty much nothing in common. They don't want to see each other. They don't want to interact. If you look them up on social media, they wouldn't have any mutual friends in common. Yet Paul is saying that you need one another. Why? To attain to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of Jesus. I've been here nearly 2 years, well, over 2 years now, and I have to say one of the most delightful things about being part of this church community has been the fact that, and I honestly mean this, and I said it this morning, and I mean this for this congregation as well, that there hasn't been a week that has gone by where I haven't learned something new about myself or about God. And that's through being with you guys. It's through coming to our services. It's through being with the staff team, our Stay Toasty team, our Love Your Neighbour team, coming to Kingdom Come. It's been a wonderful joy to participate and witness what God is doing through individual lives, yes, but through us as a church community, as we work together to play our parts in the building of God's kingdom. And so we grow, and certainly this has been the case for me, by being with each other through good times and through difficult times. And we know that God gives us these spiritual gifts in order to build up to the body of Christ. God doesn't just want individual Christians to grow, although of course that's an important thing for us to work towards as a church, but actually he wants the church to grow. Spiritual maturity isn't knowing more and more facts, but actually it's becoming more and more like Jesus through being equipped, by staying connected, by working together, by each part doing its work. Because in verse 16 it says, for him, the whole body grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. The church grows not through individual personalities, although don't get me wrong, there are some great, great characters here. But because everybody is participating, everybody is serving, everybody is loving, everybody is growing, God is doing immeasurably more through us together, through all of us coming together and playing our part. And so that means that when you serve the church, it moves forward. When you love others, we grow stronger. When you use your spiritual gifts, God does immeasurably more than we can ever imagine. So going forward, I wonder for you, in what ways are God calling you to serve and sharing your spiritual gifts with one another? Because we all have them. Maybe it's joining the kids and youth team and serving our younger generations, being a teacher. Maybe it's coming on our Love Your Neighbour cafe team and sharing in conversations with people who might feel lonely or vulnerable, being a pastor. Maybe it's hosting a Bible study with people that might not know Jesus, being an apostle. Maybe it's offering to pray for people and with people and seeing what God might have to say, being a prophet. Maybe it's inviting somebody to church over the summer months or to one of our summer activities that we've got going on, being an evangelist. I think all these spiritual gifts, they're needed and they're valued, and they help the church to become places of deep togetherness, where we can come together and people can encounter the love of God, where people can look in and see these group of wonderful, wacky people all playing their part, all sharing their spiritual gifts with one another. And through that, people can encounter the love of Jesus for themselves.